Like a trusted turnout jacket you've had for years, Flex 7 outer shell fabric delivers a perfectly broken-in feel on the very first wear. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of Enforce technology, Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tenkatafabrics.com/flex7. Flex 7, powered by Enforce technology. Only from Tenkata Protective Fabrics.
Welcome to 5 After Midnight. It's a new show where we talk about the things the way you would around a sleep-deprived kitchen table. When you've run 5 or more calls after midnight, your brain feels half gone, and you and your crew have absolutely no filter. Just pure honesty. The goal of this series is to kick around the small things that really aren't so small and have a big impact in the way our firehouses function. My name is Stephanie. I'm genuinely not an expert at anything. I'm just here to ask the sometimes awkward questions. Enjoy.
Come too far, don't let this slip away. Fade out like they said we would.
Howdy.
What's up?
How are you?
Other than technology absolutely murdering me this afternoon, good. Not used to having to record with these little ones, so
Well, it's
we'll
not
see how I
bad.
do.
This is my comfort zone.
This is nice.
I was gonna say this is my comfort zone.
I normally have some sort of hat on and a mic in front of me, so I could basically you see here,
Mm-hmm.
and I only have to be nice right here with my face. So I'm gonna get used to this whole video thing.
Yeah.
Can't hide the face.
No, and that's how I'm doing mine. Is I'm doing it on Squadcast, so everything is video as well. I just don't release a video yet.
Do you really want to see what my face does when I have conversations? I don't think anyone needs to see that. I just want them to think of me as a nice person.
Well, I mean, we can hoodwink as many people as you want. It's all right.
Well, now I can't hoodwink anyone because the face hides nothing. So
There you go.
So did you actually get sleep last night and know how to process it? That's the question.
You know what? It's funny because last night I tried a new mushroom supplement just to see what it would do.
Which one did you try?
It's
when you say mushroom, do you mean like
actually,
adaptogenic mushroom, or do you mean?
Well, this one's interesting because it is a derivative of Amanita muscaria, which is the original. Like you see the red mushroom with the white dots, and that's the magic mushroom. That is the original. And but it's not a psychedelic in the sense that the drops aren't psychedelic. The drops are just calming. But it did bring on some dreams, and I don't dream very often. And so there were a couple of dreams that were really, really kind of wild. And I was like, okay, I'll do it again tonight. See how it goes.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So for the listeners who don't know why I'm asking Stack about his sleep quality, Stack, you recently retired. Congratulations.
Huzzah. Yes. Thank you.
So that's actually what we're here to talk about today is your journey to that decision and how it's going so far. And for those who have never seen you on my show before, you are Stack from The Things We All Carry.
Yes, I am. It's a little podcast on mental health and first responders.
It's a absolutely fantastic podcast. If you've never listened to it, go listen. Stack, you do an amazing job of bringing people on who have stories, and some are average, normal firefighter stories, but just hearing people verbalize out loud the things that we go through is a rare thing because we are such a silent community. We don't like to.
I prefer that average
feelings.
though, because I think that's what we can all relate to more than the superstar.
Right.
I think that it's once we realize that everyone, it doesn't matter if you're a rookie or if you're 25 years on the job, everyone's experiencing some of the same shit. Once you realize that, you're like, okay, it's normal. Now, how do I deal with it? And that's been more the focus of the show is, okay, how are we dealing with these traumas now that you've talked about them a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Well, you, my friend, I have to like hide behind a pillow or something since I don't have a mic. You've retired.
Yes.
What led to that? Because you have 11 years on the job, I believe. Now, you came on a little later. We're not calling you old. We're just saying you came on later.
You can call me old. I was old when I came on the job. It was definitely a second career, and I don't know, second, third, whatever career. I'm a little bit of a seeker, I believe. I decided to join the fire department after my kids were older and out of the house, and I could kind of do something for myself. And so I joined the fire service at 44. And first of all, going through recruit school at 44 was an experience. But I knew that my expiration date, so to speak, wasn't too far down the road. I knew 20 wasn't going to be in my books. I wasn't going to go till 64 or 65 years old riding a fire engine or fire truck. And I didn't label what that time was going to be. In my rookie year, I said, if I can perform to this level, I'm okay. I will do this level. And once it starts to become more and more that I'm coming away from that level, then it's time for me to recalibrate and see where I'm at. And in my department, we switched from the 24-48 with the Kelly to the 56, where we do what you guys do, Stephanie, with the day on, day off, day on, day off, day on, 4 off. And
can't hide the space behind a mic right now.
It is a killer schedule. It kills you. And I don't mean killer in my Florida talk growing up on the surf. It's a fucking killer. And I know you told me not to drop that F-bomb. I apologize, but it is. It's a killer.
I just said don't drop a ton of them.
All right, well, that's one. Keep a counter. It's a killer, and it doesn't allow you to recover. And you add that to the fact that I'm in my mid-50s now. You just don't recover that fast anyway. So you add the two together, and it starts to really wear on you. But there's more to it than that. There's so much that goes on with the fire service that it's the ancillary stuff that wears you down a bit. It's the drama, the paperwork, the bullshit from the higher ups, even the union stuff will get you. It just does. There's drama everywhere.
It really is.
So my decision was based on what was best for me. Now, that doesn't mean it was an easy decision, because I still love the job. The job is as cliche as it sounds, it's the greatest job in the world. But there's some changes that could probably be made, and that's not for us to discuss today, I don't think, because we can't solve that problem today. But there are changes that could be made to elongate careers and keep people healthier. So absent those changes, and I knew those changes wouldn't be coming to my department anytime sooner, and I'm not going to join a new department, I made that decision to step away.
Absolutely can't blame you. The schedule we are on is because when I started paramedic school, I was on the original schedule that you guys were on, which was the 24. It was what, 24/72?
No, we were on 24/48 with the Kelly.
48? Okay. So 24/48, and then just move into that 24/24 was murderous, especially if you have a family or if you're just starting out, so you have to have a second job. You are a walking zombie. If you don't come home and literally, if you're at a busy house, if you don't come home and go straight to bed or sleep in at the firehouse, and then of course it's a busy suburban area right outside of DC. So if you sleep in, you're stuck in traffic for, depends on how long, especially if you're like one of these guys who lives in Pennsylvania or Delaware.
Yeah.
You have to have a really tight rein on your health, which we should as part of the promise we've made. But some days it's not easy, right? You're chasing after kids, you have sports, you have homework, you have whatever. If you're trying to do school, if you're trying to go to paramedic school, or if you're trying to do the necessary classes to become an officer, it's just not possible. And your sleep hygiene goes down the drain.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck in this never-ending loop of not being able to catch up. And you can't catch up on sleep. We all know that. It takes, 10 days to catch up for one 24-hour missed sleep.
There's so much. I mean, I guess there's some competing science out there about catching up on sleep and banking sleep. But all I know is that when your sleep is out of whack, everything is out of whack.
Correct. So you made this. Oh, go ahead.
I say, and you can't process things appropriately when certain points of your sleep cycle are interrupted and not allowed to happen. You just don't process things properly, and so they don't get put away properly in those neat little file cabinets. Having
to find thoughts after the first day coming off of that cycle. first day of my 4-day. It's just, don't expect me to get anything done. I'm not going to be able to find a thought. I'm not going to be able to do anything coherent other than put one foot in front of the other and find food. That's about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the first big thing that needed to change. And then just the, like you said, the never ending cycle of drama, recent collective bargaining agreements, departments squabbling about that in the Northern Virginia region where we're at. It becomes a lot. It just becomes a lot of daily BS that just really grinds on you. If we were just left to run the calls, I think we could handle the sleep. But you throw everything else on top of it, and it kind of becomes, is this worth it to my health?
And that is the driving. Excuse me. As I'm driving over here and I'm trying to think about what we were going to talk about, and I was trying to identify the one thing, and in my head, there's not one thing that made the decision for me. But if I had to choose a driving force behind my decision, it was the sleep. Because even if I slept through the night at the firehouse, which I was on a truck to end my career, so we did sleep through the house or through the night a few times. I understand the dynamics there, but even that is not good sleep, because that's kind of that anticipatory sleep where you're just waiting for it to happen, and it's a lot of light sleep. There's not a lot of REM. You're not getting into deep sleep very often. There's mold, there's dust, it's just not the right atmosphere for good sleep.
It's not. So made the decision. I know you were grappling with it for a while. We had a lot of conversations, made the decision, pulled the trigger, walked away. Now, what has it been walking into this world of suddenly, well, I don't have to be up at 4:30 in the morning. It brings a different level of chaos, I would think, because having spent the past 11 years in a very regimented way of life, now that can be a little scary.
I think that, you talk about my normal in the fire department was up at 4 to go to work, because I lived 45 minutes or an hour away from work. So I'm up at 4 to get ready to drive in, to be there about 5:15, 5:20 for a 6 o'clock change. So that was my normal. And then on the back end, we're getting up at 5:30 to do changeover, so crews can switch out at about 5:45, get on the road, go home. And then the next day, do it again and again until that 4-day, when you get up at 5 to go home for 4 days. And then your body's like, I don't know what time I'm supposed to get up. And so sometimes you're up at 5, sometimes you're up at 9. It just depends on what your body is doing. So what I have found is that in that case, while that was regimented going to work, my sleep is more regimented now. So I have identified my sleep window, and I try to adhere to my sleep window. That being said, and while I'm getting 8 to 8.5 hours of sleep, my body's going, what do I do with it? How do I react to this? So it's getting better, but for the most part, for the last 2 months, even though I'm getting sleep, I'm still waking up tired, and my body's trying to figure out how to adjust to normalcy.
How has it been stepping away from the camaraderie?
Oh, that was a. You ever hear a door slam so hard it jars you?
Mm-hmm.
That's what walking away from fire service is. The door slams shut. There's a few people that will reach out every once in a while, and it's on you to reach out to people, because the door does slam shut. It has to, unfortunately. It really does have to, in a way, because that crew, I love them to death, but they are still on that schedule, and they're still in that mindset, and they have to be in that mindset. And I'm not part of that, except for a few texts here and there. I'm not part of that right now, because I'm not part of that machine. I'm not a cog in that machine anymore. So I've been replaced, which I knew I would be replaced. And it's part of the nature of this business, I believe.
Well, it's almost, I think, a little bit of a survival mechanism on our end, those left behind. I mean, not that I would ever miss you, but you're the kind of shift member that somebody's going to miss when they go out the door. And I think when you go through that enough times, it's just this survival instinct of out of sight, out of mind, just keep on plugging through.
Yeah,
with
and that's
people
what I
not
mean. I think
reaching out
it
as
kind of
well.
has to happen that way for them to motor on.
Do you, I mean, there's got to be all kinds of thoughts and feelings, right? I'm not trying to put you on the spot and
Go ahead.
talk about the mushy stuff, but I know you said stepping away from the camaraderie has been hard.
Mhm.
What other things kind of jumped up and surprised you about walking away?
I don't miss the calls, and that surprises me. I don't miss running calls. I don't even miss the fires, because I hear my crew go on a fire. I see the pictures, I see the Facebook posts, and I see it all, and I see the cuts, and I see the fires, and I see this, and I go, that's cool, good for them. I hope they stay safe, because that's what scares me, is that somebody gets hurt and I'm not there. That came to light when the Loudoun County firefighters died, when they had the gas explosion. And that came to light. I hadn't even stepped away yet, but I thought to myself as I laid in bed and I read the text thread between my crew, and it's, we knew there were Maydays called. We knew this house was leveled and decimated. I reached out to two of my former guests, Matt Hartman and Charlie Collins, to check on them to see if they were on duty or if they were safe, and they were. And then I settled in and I thought, fuck, if I step away and then my crew gets hurt tomorrow, that's going to screw me up for a good long time. I had to grapple with the fact that everyone has to step away at some point, and what happens after I leave isn't on me, but it feels like it would be, if that makes sense.
Right. No, survivor's guilt. So
Yeah, but it's survivor's guilt for something that hasn't even happened.
I think we've all been on vacation or been on a trip or something, and some page goes out, and you can't get a hold of your shift for a minute or two, and the pucker factor happens. And I think it's something we've all had to sit down and, excuse me, and think about, but it's not something, you're right, it's not something I would have expected in retirement.
No, and it's funny because, and funny in an ironic way, I mean, even just talking about it there, I get choked up.
What other things surprised you? There had to have been a couple of them in there. Can't have just been one or two things.
I don't know if surprise was the word, or, I've talked to people. As you know, I mean, that's what I do. I talk to people. I interview people. There's some people I interview that never make it to air. There's a ton of people that make it to air, and I talk about a ton of stuff. And I have talked to a number of people who've stepped away, and it's actually, my rookie gave me a book to read, and it's the book is interesting. It has some good points in it, and it kind of identifies stages of decision making to leave a service life. And when I read it at first, I kind of just shrugged it. I pushed it aside and went, okay, it is what it is. And then when I read it again after leaving, I went, oh, wait a second, that's the stage I'm in now. And so what really did surprise me was how short what he calls the celebration stage was. Like you have this ramp up where you decide you're going to leave. It ramp, and it is that anticipation, and you're eager to do it, and you can't wait. Then it comes to that time where you leave, and it's emotional as can be. The last night that I was on shift, I had to leave because of Virginia state retirement laws. I had to leave at a certain time. I couldn't work into the next month. So I had to leave before midnight, and I said my goodbyes, and it was tear jerking and all of that. And then I got out and I was like, I'm done. I'm me again. I can do what I want to do. And then I woke up the next morning and went, oh shit, I'm me again. And the celebration was over. It didn't even last through the breakfast the next morning. The celebration was over. So that's kind of surprising how short it actually is.
I think you're in a unique position that you did have an entire career before this. You were in the military, then you had another career after that, and you do have age behind you that not as many.
That was so polite,
nicely.
Stephanie.
So
I mean, you
Listen.
slung an insult and you gave me a kiss at the same time. Unbelievable.
It's the art of being a ginger.
Is that what it is? It's an Irish toast. Forget that.
Forget the Irish goodbye. You had age behind you. You have experience behind you. You have all these different things. I think something you and I have really heard ramp up within the past year has been how many people that are younger are thinking about and have walked away from the fire service.
Yeah.
And I think while age was a factor for you, I think you did it for a lot of those same reasons.
Yes.
I
agree.
I don't know if you necessarily would have done it because you have this outlet of your podcast and helping people. I'm not sure if you would have done it. You might have held on a little longer if age wasn't a factor.
I might have, and I'll give a shout out to James Geary. And if you guys, I'm not trying to take away from your show. I'm not trying to take away from my show, but James Geary is
I see how it is.
In the first responder world right now. James Geary is kind of the GOAT for us. And that man did a lot for me. And one of the things he told me when we spoke 2 years ago, I asked him why you did the show, why you stepped away, and how it took him away from the fire service. And he talked about something. He said one morning he woke up, he ran in Florida. He woke up to do a lift assist at 2:30 in the morning. And he thought to himself, why am I doing this? Why am I killing myself, literally killing myself to go pick someone off the floor? And that sounds bad. It's not what he means. What he means is what am I getting out of this? He knows he's helping that lady get off the floor. And to him, it came to him in that moment. I can stay here and help this one person every night or whatever, or I can leave here and I can continue to help thousands through my podcast. So he started talking about that decision being the force multiplier. So to step away for him was the force multiplier. He can do more good stepping away than he can do in the fire service. That I took to heart. So when I started seeing that I can reach more people through my podcast and my service outside of the fire department, that's my force multiplier. It was time for me to go. That just added on to the decision-making process.
So I'm going to give you two things to think about that we're going to kick around with this episode. One is how you can kind of help people who are going to leave mentally prepare, because I think we've all seen people retire and maybe a week, maybe a month later, they come back around the firehouse with a box of donuts or cupcakes, and you can tell they don't know how to turn it off and they struggle with it. So I want you to be thinking, one, how do we help those people? But two, first question is, what do we need to do? I've never heard this conversation in 21 years as much as I am now. I've never heard as many people wanting to leave as much as I have now. I mean, when I came on the job, the lines were out the door. It was 5,000, 6,000 people waiting in a pool to jump in. And now we are struggling to get candidates. And when we do get them, we're struggling to retain. There's clearly an issue. Like, this isn't just some Gen Z thing. This isn't an aftermath of COVID. There's an issue. We have done something wrong, clearly, along the way.
I think that it's too multifaceted and layered to identify what we've done wrong. And I don't know if it's all what we've done wrong. I think that society is shifted. I think expectations of easy money have stepped in. And easy money in the sense of, and can I sell stuff on TikTok? Can I go on OnlyFans and get money? Can I do it? There's money out there to be had if you do it right. And
now
people
we know where to
chase.
find you, Stack.
What's that?
Now we know where to find you, since
I'll share my screen name. Anyway, there's money out there or at least there's the thought
Perception.
that there's money out there to be made, and it's almost easy money. And so a group of people coming up sees that and is more used to more immediate gratification with social media. There's a lowered, there's a lowered attention span. There's this inability to, like you mentioned COVID. If you think about 14 and 15-year-olds 3 years ago, they're now the 18 and 19-year-olds who don't know how to deal with people face to face because they spent the formative years through high school dealing with each other like we're doing right now. So it changes you as a person in a way. And that's what we're trying to draw from now. We're trying to draw that from that pool that doesn't know how to do that really. So that's part of it. There's like I say, it's multifaceted. There's part of that. There's part of the fact that the fire service has lost a luster. It has. You know, we abused some of that as firefighters. We did. It right or wrong, and it might not actually be true, but the public has seen it as some sort of an abuse. And so that luster is kind of off as firefighters. We're not thought of as cops, but we're mistaken in that vein more often nowadays.
I think 2001, September 11th, obviously, for appropriate reasons, a spotlight was put on the fire service, and there was a shine and there was a halo to it. And it was appropriately glorified. I mean, considering what happened. But then I think over the next decade, that shine started to wear off, and now data articles are starting to come out. They're starting to find their way into the mainstream media, and people are starting to say, well, that sounds horrible. I don't want to do that. And then you couple it with, you're right, if I can stay home and on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, make 50, 60, 70, 80 grand a year, why would I go sacrifice my health and potentially my life to go do that job? So I think the question is how do we target and how do we reframe the love of the service? Because that's what's going to keep you in the fire service. We don't have a ton of fires anywhere in a suburban, non-city environment. It's not the love of fire that's going to keep you on the job. It's the hope of a fire, but it's not the daily love of the fire. It's going to be the need and the desire to create something, to change something, to touch somebody's life. Mm-hmm. How do we go out and we foster that and find that is the next big question for the fire service. So when you start your cadet program is what I'm saying.
Well, and some counties have. I mean, you guys have one.
No, I meant you personally.
Oh, I'm not. No. I'll start a cadet program with how to podcast. You guys have podcast questions, come to me. I'll show you. Some people will tell you I show you the wrong way to do it, but that's okay. You're right. How do we make it enticing again? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'm really not sure. There's always going to be service-minded people who want to have a profession like law enforcement, like firefighting, like military. And I think the job of departments is going to be to capture that and you're going to have to compete for the people. And I think competing for the people is raising your standards, not lowering it. And I think that a lot of departments are lowering and playing to the lowest common denominator. And I think we need to flip that on its head and make people earn it to the point where there's too much pride to say, I'm done.
It's counterintuitive to what we've done for the past decade.
Crazy, right?
We've lowered and we've recruited in a way that we've recruited people who just wanted to try it on like a glove, right? Well, this one doesn't fit, so cheap Amazon glove, I'm going to chuck it. Now the season of that life is over and I'm going to walk away. And we create this revolving door, which then, it just brings down the morale of those left behind of, oh, I didn't realize this job was such a throwaway thing. And it leaches into the environment. There was one point that
in the academy, it was said, oh, no, we don't fire people. Well, that's just asinine. Because first of all, if you're late to CPAT, don't come back. And we allow people in to still run their test, even though they were late. And that blows my mind. That's the lowest hurdle to jump. Be on time.
Right.
That's the lowest hurdle to jump. But we excused it, and we set a standard that was like kiddie pool size, instead of raising that standard and saying, you know what, We're going to open again next year, so feel free to come back. But for now, you're not a fit because you couldn't be here on time.
So just by micro adjustments, such as holding people accountable to time and to actions, we can start to raise the pride in the department, which then, listen, take it back to high school prom. You don't want to go out the lowest common denominator, right? You want to go out with the football star, or the prom queen. That's who everybody's after. If we're the quiet, nerdy kid or the goth kid on the corner, people are just going to walk on by. And so it's up to departments to say, no, we're going to raise our appeal by simply saying you have to meet this bar to work for us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you're going to have people say, oh, that's shinier. That's different. I want to try that.
And let's look at the schedule. And I know people are going to go, oh, we can't afford to do it. But you know the answer. The answer is 24/72.
You can't afford the sick leave. You can't afford the overtime that you're paying now for all the sick leave and the annual leave. Because people are just tired.
Right.
Physically tired.
Let's change the schedule, add people, and you're actually going to save money.
They've done studies.
And what's that?
I said they've done studies. We'll link them.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's what, studies? Science?
Research.
So, yeah, I mean, are you still going to pull in 3,500 to 4,000 people for 30 positions? Probably not. Those days are probably gone. But that means that those old heads that are running fire departments that like to like their positions and are comfortable in their positions need to be a little more progressive. And I know that word scares people. That scares fire departments because progressive means a lot of things to a lot of people. And there's a lot of different meanings to it. But you have to be more progressive, and a different schedule, a more friendly schedule, a 24/72, that's progressive.
We'll get to it one day, probably the year after I retire, but we'll get to it one day. So micro adjustments are what's going to get us there. And it's probably going to take another 5 to 10 years to get us back on our feet.
Yeah.
So what do people mentally need to, I'm leaving in a year. It'll have been 20 years for me. My body is it's done. I've only been at busy houses, thankfully. And it's time to step away physically before I have to have surgery, knock on wood. What do we need to prepare for when we retire? Because I can't imagine. To me, it's absolutely terrifying. It's something I know that I will probably need to physically do, but it is just the scariest thought ever in the world because this is what I've known for 20 years. This is all I've known for 20 years.
Find a passion. Find a passion now.
I talk to you. I mean,
perfect. But then you're setting yourself up because no, seriously though, find a passion. Don't keep the fire department as your passion. And I know people are going, oh, but it's my calling. I get that. I understand that. But you need something outside of the fire department because the fire department is going to go away. You are going to, like I said, you're going to leave the fire department and the door is going to shut behind you. Yeah, you can go back as I'm retired and I'm part of the union and all that, but it's never going to be the same. Because when I walked out of that fire department that night, the next time I walked in, I was a guest and I rang a doorbell. It's a different feeling to come back to a place that I called home and ring the doorbell to come inside. So find a passion, find something that is not fire department and live it now. That way, when you get out of the fire department, that's already set for you. You're already doing something that you love and you enjoy, and you don't have to find something to fall back on and have nothing to do. That's my main piece of advice. And I say it on my show all the time. You're a human working as a firefighter. Don't identify as just a firefighter. Identify as a human and have your job be a firefighter. Go do something other than firefighting. Have friends outside of the fire service. That's even crazier, I know, because that's tough. That's tough with our schedule. Find your friends, find people outside of the fire service and be their friend. It's crazy, but those things are going to help you. They're going to add value to your life now, and they're going to be your safety net when you step away.
And I think for those who are struggling with staying in the fire service, getting to see that life outside of the fire service, getting to move your mind out of fire service mode for just maybe even if it's just for 24 hours on an in-between day. I mean, that can be the breath of fresh air that you need to be able to go back to that next 24 hour.
Yes. Yeah.
In the
Find a
right
hobby.
state of mind.
Find a hobby that's not fire related. I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. My hobby is fire related, right? The things we all carry is as much as I want it to be global, is a firefighters podcast. I'm guilty of it. I was also guilty of alienating myself from the outside world and being a cocoon within the fire service. I was guilty of it as much as I preach against it. I'm telling you right now, don't do that, because it will set you up for failure. Because when you get out, you're going to look around and you go, oh, where are my friends? Who do I hang out with? Who do I talk to? And my friends, I have a very small core group of friends. There are some that are fire, but there are some that aren't, but they're all spread out across the United States. So I'm looking in Orlando, I'm looking in Dallas, I'm looking in Houston. Those are where my friends are. But that doesn't help me here in Virginia. You know, I can't go, hey, Ben, let's go grab a meal because he lives in Dallas. I can't say, Sean, let's go grab a drink because he lives in Orlando. I didn't have that safety net here in Virginia, and you need it. You need a network of friends that are not necessarily fire related, and you need a hobby.
And as much as I made fun of it, looking back on it now, I mean, I think that's why stuff like CrossFit absolutely blew up.
Mm-hmm.
Is because suddenly all I had to do was go to the gym to have a whole new set of friends,
Mm-hmm.
most of whom, well, half of whom were probably firefighters and cops, but people who weren't, who I could suddenly, I say I don't do CrossFit, but you know, people could suddenly bond with, and they could have this whole world outside of the fire service with minimal organization and effort. It's organized for them. They just had to show up and put in the effort and hang out. And I know that movement has kind of died down a lot. People kind of go in and out with jiu-jitsu, but I think that was such a revolutionary thing for the fire service. As much as I made fun of it, it was actually a great mental thing for the fire service.
I do think that the healthiest firefighters are the ones who have a more well-rounded life. And I think that's in general, but I think it's very specific as well to the fire department. I look at the group of people that I worked with, and I know the ones that are doing well outside I know the ones that are doing well in the fire service because they're also doing well outside of the fire service. And we tend to become so insular that we eliminate everything outside of the fire service. And we need to encourage people to not do that. We need to encourage variety. And that goes against what the fire department wants you to do, because they want you to buy in hook, line, and sinker. They want you to be that 24/7. It benefits them if you are. But we need to establish that, no, we're human beings, and we need to have a variety of interests and a variety of hobbies and a variety of friends. And we need to foster that, because like I said, when you step away, you're going to need it.
Guilty as charged. I can't.
Oh, I'm calling myself out.
Yeah, I can't say anything. Should probably start planning that now.
Right?
Not sure where you find friends these days as an almost 40-year-old, but we're gonna go looking. Speaking of hobbies outside of the fire service, did you actually sit down and read Travels with Charlie yet?
I am halfway through it, actually. Yes, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Yes,
I'm expecting you to go by the van and get the dog and the bourbon and
do a book report.
I'm looking forward to it.
No, I am. Well, I'm halfway through it. It's a great book, and that's funny because that's a great segue into something though, because one of the things I did do in the fire service is I let that stuff slide. I stopped doing that stuff. I stopped reading because I felt I'm tired. I don't feel like doing anything. And doing anything included reading. So I didn't do as much reading. I used to be an avid cyclist. I stopped riding because I was just tired, and the schedule doesn't allow for consistent training. My head telling me it doesn't allow for consistent training. It's easy enough not to do it. I stopped doing that. I kind of stopped going to concerts, which is a passion of mine. So one of the things that I've tried to do is start adding all of that back in. And that's one of the main reasons why on my show, I do ask for a book recommendation from everybody, because I want to know what people are reading. And I try to push that idea of reading and growing your mind and maturing your mind. But that again, the hobbies are important. And so that I'm back on the bike doing some more cycling. I've signed up for a monster ride at the end of the year. And so it's going to be a summer of training. I'm reading, I'm going to concerts, and more importantly, I'm finishing up a year of not drinking. And that's kind of kept my head clear and clean throughout all this. Well, and it is massive because it's been a hell of a year, let alone stepping away from the fire service. So to keep my head clean has been a game changer, because that for me, and this is my own personal story, the alcohol would really just crash my serotonin, my dopamine, whatever you want to, it would just crash it, and it would be days before I'd recover. And so those are things to look out for as well as you're leaving the fire service.
It's funny you bring that up, because I've never been the party drinker, any of that. I started finding myself doing a nightly cocktail during COVID. Homeschooling the kids literally drove everyone to drinking. But I've noticed over the past 4 years, as I've started to do more cocktail before dinner, went out, glass of wine with dinner, I'm not what society would consider to be an over drinker. But I realized how much my body absolutely hates alcohol.
Yeah.
Not drinking it to get drunk, not drinking it to get buzzed. I'm truly drinking it for the taste, and it destroys my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I really am stuck in this place of life of, especially after you and I were talking about it the other day. And I just thought, is this something that as a responsible industrial athlete, I might have to give up, because what is it doing to my body? If the next morning I know my sleep hasn't been as good, I have a headache even after just 1 or 2 drinks, what is this doing to me? And where's my responsibility to see how much damage it's causing to my health and my body?
Yeah. And I'm not making fun of age, because I'm 55 years old, but you say 40, and that's when it starts to happen though. It's your body goes, wait a second. I don't,
1 more year.
I said pushing 40. I didn't say you were 40. Your body starts to lose the ability to process it quickly. And so then it lingers a little longer. And I know what you're saying, that the alcohol use crept up on me, and I don't think I'm an alcoholic. I stand by that, but I would justify it by going, I'd pour a tumbler, and before it emptied, I put a little more in. And to me, that was still drink number 1. And then then reality
It's the
goes,
most
hey,
Irish thing I've heard all day.
Right? So, and I don't care if people drink. I really don't. I'm just saying, for me, it helped me to have clarity and not have extreme ups and downs, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. And I think, I say unfortunately, because I do think it adds to your meal. I think that's a road that I'm about to be headed on as well. Just seeing how it affects my sleep and my recovery is, joys of getting older.
Yeah, and you can still
Privilege
do it and
and a
enjoy
curse.
life. It's great. You just have to learn what your body can take and what it can't take.
Apparently mushrooms is the answer.
Yeah, there's a variety, and we can talk about them if you want. Yeah, I mean, there are different ways. Obviously, with Virginia being a recreational use for marijuana, that's one option. DC has decriminalized mushrooms. That's just a little hint. So if you want to go to DC, you can get mushrooms. It is a much more viable way to quote unquote relax.
I've met me normal. I'm not sure I want to meet me or have anyone else meet me.
How
with
often
anything else on board?
How often have you seen me smile?
I mean, I feel like that's a trick question.
Yeah, I don't normally walk around with a smile on my face, but I'm gonna tell you what, I think
it's not normally plastered on your face.
when you will know when I'm on mushrooms. I'll tell you that.
Just the goofy grin.
Because you'll be like, what the fuck are you? Why are you so happy? It's like, I am. It's just, and I'm not advocating it. I'm not telling you to go break the law. Okay, let's clear that up. When I advocate for substances like marijuana or mushrooms or whatever, I'm saying it should be in a controlled atmosphere. There are many kinds of therapies that utilize that, and ketamine included, that are very viable and very appropriate options for first responders to get past some of these traumas. And so I know that people think that I'm reckless sometimes with what I'm recommending. I'm recommending it in a very controlled environment with a professional that knows what they're doing.
Well, I think everybody knows my stance on medical marijuana at this point. If injured again, I will absolutely be going out and getting that prescription. I've never wanted to screw around with narcotics after watching coworkers in the first responder world fall into a trap and get addiction and get fired. So that we need more options. I mean, I'm never going to argue with that at all. Wow. Listen, I think we've about covered everything. And your computer didn't die.
No, a computer didn't die. It's a massive topic. Stepping away from the fire department is intimidating and it is daunting. But if you do it right, there's so much we didn't talk about. We didn't even touch finances. We didn't even touch retirement. And the one thing I did want to talk about, because you and I talked about the other day, and if you have to go, let me know and I'll stop talking.
No, we're here.
One of the things you and I talked about the other day when we were talking about the show was, what am I leaving on the table by leaving early, quote unquote, leaving early? And I always thought that was funny in the fire service that we do that. We say, well, if I leave at 12 years, how much am I leaving on the table? You know how many people join the Army, join the Marine Corps, join the Navy and serve 8 to 12 years and walk away without ever thinking about what they're leaving on the table? It is so commonplace in the military to do that. And they're doing it because they know those jobs weren't really designed to be 20 and 30-year careers. Your bodies aren't designed to do these jobs for that long. Your bodies, your brains, your spirits aren't really designed to do these jobs that long. I know there are outliers that do 45 years, but do you know what they also do? They usually walk away from the job and
limp out of the
die.
firehouse.
Yeah. And they usually walk away and die within months because they don't know what to do anymore. So what I'm saying is, you can say, if I leave at 20 instead of 25, what am I leaving on the table for my retirement system? Or you can look at it and go, if I leave at 25 instead of 20, what am I leaving behind of my body and my spirit that I might be able to capitalize on right now? And one of the questions is, what do I do when I get out? You do whatever you want. That's the thing. We're fixers. We make do with everything. The list of stuff that you learn to do as a firefighter is immeasurable. You forget that when someone doesn't know what to do, who do they call?
Ghostbusters.
They call us because we're supposed to fix everything. And so you have this crisis mitigation. You have all the skills you've learned about, building instruction, fire, medical stuff. You have a long list of skills, and it just has to be applied correctly into a resume, and you can do whatever you want in this world.
Well, and we have the creative minds. I think something that's been insanely frustrating for me is coming to terms with the fact that I'm probably leaving, 98% sure I'm leaving at year 20. And I at least made the promise with myself of, even if I make it a little longer after that, I have to be okay with leaving at 20. Anytime after that I get as a gift, but definitely 20 is the end goal, because I don't want to be I've injured my spine 4 times now. I'm very lucky that rehab has worked. But at the same time, I couldn't feel my left leg for 2 years straight. That's not the quality of life that's not normal. That's not a quality of life I want in retirement, especially having children and hobbies. And I
Right.
had to give up those physical hobbies for a couple of years. So to me, the point of this is so many people, in fact, 99% of people have said, but you're leaving so much money on the table. But I'm walking away. And when I say I'm walking away, I mean,
Literally.
I am not crawling out of the firehouse.
Right.
I am literally physically walking away. And that is worth it to be able to go on and live a healthy life.
Yes.
Is it mentally going to be hard? Yes. Is it not what I want? I thought I was going to make it to 30 years. Yes. But I made the choice to stay at busy houses and have fun. That choice came with injuries. And now I have to make a wise game plan based off of that. But to me, I'm not leaving anything on the table to be able to go on and live a healthy life and enjoy a second career. Probably going to be something fire service related and helping firefighters. But I will literally be standing on my own 2 feet and my left leg won't be collapsing under me. And that's something we have to reframe.
Right.
It's just, we cannot look at our health as a tradable commodity any longer.
We do it all the time.
We do. And it's not a currency. It should not be optional.
You know, the amount of overtime that firefighters are working, they're trading their health as a commodity. They are. And it scares me when I look at how some of the overtime people are working.
I've been there. I've been guilty. I've done the work the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, get on your 4-day, have 1 day off, work overtime for 48 back to back in between.
Yeah.
I've done it. And it's just, it was a conversation with myself of, are you doing this because you want things? Are those things really necessary compared to what you're doing to your mind and your body?
There goes my definition of wealthy.
Yeah.
It's not working to afford everything. It's paring down what you want in order to not have to work too much. You know, it's flipping that on its head and going, do I have to make X amount of money so I can keep this style of living, or do I pare down my style of living so I don't have to make X amount of money? Bless you.
Sorry.
Well, there was no mute button there.
Apologies.
So
we'll edit that out.
You know, there's so many things we could talk about that we left on, basically, no pun intended, we left on the table because there's so much to this decision, and it's such a personal decision, and it cheapens it for me to go, you're going to know when you know, but you are going to know when you know. And if you're out there and you're going, I have to do this because I have 5 more years before I get X amount of money, you're not in it for the right reasons. And that overtime, I'm going to go back to that real quick. That overtime that's open is not our responsibility to fill. That's administration's responsibility to fix their mismanagement.
I'm not going to argue.
So,
well, listen, it is May. I'm giving you 6 months. And then in November, we're going to come back to this conversation because I'm guessing you're going to have a whole different set of answers and questions.
I might even finish the book by then. It doesn't have pictures, Stephanie.
I know. It's got a lot of words, but they're entertaining words. Steinbeck
I'm wearing glasses to read them.
Well, I don't do that. I just hold the book right there.
Yeah.
Steinbeck. Come on.
No, it's
Master
good.
of Human Language. It's a good book.
Yes, it is. And I have to laugh at some of the writing in there because you definitely know, okay, this was written in 1962. And then some of what he writes, and I had to remember it was written in 62 because it's very forward thinking at the same time. And so I had to go, for him to have said that in 62, he probably got some shit for it. And so it's fascinating to read it from that lens as well.
For those who missed it, we're talking about Travels with Charlie by John Steinbeck. If you haven't read it, go read it. He talks about just saying F it, and he takes off in van before van life was a thing. He was the original van life guy. A suburban and a dog, and wrote about America. Zach, thank you for coming on.
Can I share my my sites so people can visit me?
Absolutely.
You can find me on TikTok and
Tip
Instagram,
yourself
obviously,
out.
at
TikTok?
the things we TikTok. Yeah,
TikTok?
yeah.
I got
Yeah.
questions.
Okay, well, hit me up. TikTok and Instagram at the things we all carry. It's the same thing for both of them. And then I'm releasing my stuff on Substack now, and so I'm releasing writings and shows on Substack, and that's the easiest place to find me. So it's the things we all carry.substack.com. Sometimes people caution me because they say my writing gets too personal, but go read it and you tell me if it gets too personal. All I'm trying to do is put a voice out there so everybody knows that they're not alone. We all have these thoughts and we all have these experiences, and we're all just human beings trying to do the best we can.
I'm not the one to decide what's too personal.
Right. We put ourselves out there. I don't think anything's too personal.
No. Yeah. At the end of the day, if somebody somewhere gets something out of it, I'm going to be dead at some point and you'll forget that personal story. So
Yep.
carry on. Well, thank you for being on here, Stack.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm happy the battery lasted.
Like a trusted turnout jacket you've had for years, Flex 7 outer shell fabric delivers a perfectly broken-in feel on the very first wear. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of Enforce technology, Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tenkatafabrics.com/flex7. Flex 7, powered by Enforce technology. Only from Tenkata Protective Fabrics.